This time on MotorWeek 92, we'll take a look at where we've been for the last decade. Lisa Barrow will reveal our deepest, darkest secrets. You'll find out how we bring you our road test. And Craig Singhas will help us relive many moments we'd just as soon forget. So join us as we celebrate 10 years of MotorWeek.
MotorWeek 92, television's automotive magazine, is made possible by funding from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the financial support of viewers like you. Your host for MotorWeek 92, John Davis.
Welcome to MotorWeek. I'm glad you're with us. This is a television series for people who love cars and for those of you who just like to find out a bit more about them. Each week we'll have our own road test of new models. Our chief mechanic, Pat Goss, will tell us how to keep our cars in good repair. And Joyce Braga will give us a close look at other new products on the automotive scene. Well, that's the way we were 10 years ago. We were a fledgling show with a simple idea: to bring the automotive world to your home TV set every week. And while time has changed MotorWeek and all of us more than a little, the past decade of change in the auto industry has been nothing short of amazing. As we celebrate our 10th anniversary, let's take a ride down memory lane to where we've been, show you what we do and how we do it, and catch a glimpse of what the future holds for us. Because for the past 10 years, the road test has been the heart and soul of every MotorWeek show, why don't we take a look back to see the cars that made a lasting impression with the MotorWeek staff and how they reflect the changing world in which we drive. It was the fall of 1981. The world was still shaking off the effects of the 70s gas crunch, and it was a turbulent year for the U.S. auto industry. The federal government had been forced to save a nearly bankrupt Chrysler Corporation from disappearing completely. And U.S. auto production was at its lowest point in 20 years. Our first road test of a Ford Escort and Fiat Strata reflected the current trend of small, efficient, but not very exciting cars. The Fiat represented the still viable European presence in this market segment. The Ford was Detroit's catch-up car. And with U.S. builders still turning out primitive tanks like the AMC Concorde, America had a lot of catching up to do. But as gas prices stabilized, American car companies rebounded, and enthusiasts would soon have reason to cheer. The Boss was back. The Boss was the V8-powered 1982 Ford Mustang, the first of a new breed of fast, affordable muscle cars that started another Detroit horsepower war. We took it and the latest Chevrolet Camaro for our first ever trip to a racetrack, and what a time we had. As performance became a big selling point in the 80s, Volkswagen introduced the Rabbit GTI. We were amazed that anyone could stuff this much excitement into such a small package. The era of the pocket rocket had arrived. We witnessed the beginnings of other future trends when we tested the Honda Civic and Accord. These Japanese compacts, with their bulletproof reliability and bargain pricing, would soon overtake the Europeans as the top dogs in the import market. America may have occasionally been down during this period, but it was hardly out. Chrysler built the K car, which not only kept the company afloat during hard times, but would serve as the platform for many future models. Besides popularizing all-wheel drive with the Quattro, Audi also led the 80s aerodynamically with the 5000. It had looks, comfort, and performance. We were impressed. Then, while the public was still making up its mind about the jelly bean look, Ford out-aeroed everyone with the Taurus. We were even more impressed. With the average car's abilities increasing, our testing methods evolved to meet the needs of this new generation. We went from little more than a stopwatch in an empty lot to drag strips and fifth wheels, to the full road courses and self-contained performance computers of today. But performance isn't everything. We had high praise for the first minivans from Chrysler, which married car-like handling and comfort to the cargo capacity of a van. And what Chrysler didn't design in-house, it bought, acquiring ailing AMC and its trend-setting Jeep line of sport utility vehicles. As the decade continued, the Japanese came on like never before. They defined the subcompact class with cars like the Mazda 323 and Toyota Corolla. And not content with capturing the import small car market, they began to steal the Europeans' bread and butter when they launched the first major Japanese luxury car, the Acura Legend. But while the Japanese may have made substantial market gains, cars like the top-selling Chevrolet Cavalier and Ford Escort proved that American companies had not completely lost touch with the needs of American car buyers. We enjoyed testing a few exotics along the way, starting inauspiciously enough with the DeLorean. It wasn't long before we were thrilled by our first Ferrari and a top speed of 148 miles per hour. No class of motor vehicles better reflected the affluence of the 80s. These cars showed that somewhere people were making money, and they weren't afraid to spend it, lots of it. There were also Panteras and plenty of Porsches, but nothing matched the Ferrari F40, which we encountered at Ferrari's home of Maranello, Italy. And no honest car fan could ignore Chevy's Corvette ZR1, the final proof that Americans could build a world-class sports car, and for half the price of those snooty European brands. Probably no other car made our test drivers happier to be Americans, or gave us more thrills per mile. The Acura NSX scared everyone. Was there anything that the Japanese couldn't build? Probably not. The Mazda Miata Retro Roadster is a good example. And don't forget the groundbreaking Lexus LS400. Of course, along with all these wonderful cars came a few oddballs. They ranged from the awesome Lamborghini LM002 off-roader to the Army's Bradley fighting vehicle to a peculiar little three-wheeled prototype called the Spy Tribe. And sadly, many cars that we tested didn't survive in the U.S. market, like the Mercor XR4 Ti and the U.S. version of the London Taxi, which went out of business shortly after we visited the factory. We hope that it wasn't something we said. More recently, our friends at Peugeot and Sterling bid us farewell. But we entered the 90s testing the best cars yet, from resurgent American designs like the Saturn and Cadillac STS, to Japanese-American hybrids like the Ford Probe and Geo Prism. All in all, it's been a pretty amazing 10 years. And we at MotorWeek feel fortunate to have been present during the most exciting decade in the history of the automobile. We've grown and changed along with this industry, and we've driven the best cars ever created by man. The next 10 years should be even better.
Remember the TVR, Pat?
Yeah, sure do, John.
Well, the TVR isn't the only manufacturer to disappear from our shores. Why, when we went on the air in '81, they still made the checker cab. In those days, the MotorWeek staff itself had a pretty eclectic collection of personal vehicles. And Lisa, I understand that despite all that time, things haven't changed that much.
That's for sure, John. And FYI, we spent the last couple of weeks investigating that one burning question that's been on everyone's lips for years. Just what kind of cars do you guys really own? Okay, looks good. Okay. You ready?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Take one. MotorWeek staffers have been spotted around town driving Ferraris, Porsches, and BMWs. But our latest investigative report uncovers that the cars they drive and the cars they actually own are two different stories. All right, you should show up very soon. Now, some MotorWeek staffers prefer to keep their real cars a guarded secret. So my co-producer, Susan Childress, and I had to rely on some good old-fashioned spying techniques to capture them on camera. We were lucky enough to catch Pat Goss outside the MotorWeek studios.
No, you don't want to see my car.
Come on.
Yeah, nobody's interested in what I drive.
Pat, viewers would love to know what you drive. Come on.
Well, okay. It's right there.
A Ford Taurus SHO. Not much surprise there. That was one we picked for our Driver's Choice Awards.
Here he comes, coming out the front door.
Oh, okay, I got him. All right.
Look, his dog's with him.
Who's he's going to drive today? The Jeep.
Huh. Not the Miata. Gosh. You don't think he's driving that, do you?
I didn't even know he owned a truck.
Where did he go?
Huh.
Get in it.
Now he can drive anything he wants, and he drives a Chevy pickup. Still, I bet it makes him pretty popular with the neighbors when they need to borrow a truck.
You see anything yet? No, no sign of him.
Well, where is he?
I don't know. It's about time he comes home.
Hey, there he is. Let's go. Okay. Hey, Craig, we're doing our story for the anniversary show on what MotorWeek staffers drive, and we'd like to shoot your vehicle.
Whoa, where did this truck come from? This is not my truck.
What are you talking about? We've seen you drive this to work.
No, I borrowed this truck, Lise.
Craig,
Susan, this is not my...
We have a letter here from the Motor Vehicle Administration. This letter says that the truck belongs to you.
It's another Craig Singhas. He lives down the
Get over
street.
this. Look at this rust. Look at this.
That's not rust. That's a special candy apple metal flake brown. It's a very rare, exclusive color. No more pictures. Come on, come on.
I'll bet nobody wants to borrow that truck. And there you have it, our investigative report into the cars that MotorWeek staffers own.
Cut. All right. Hey, what about your car?
Let's save my car for the 20th anniversary. Listen, I gotta go. Can you take that one? I'll talk to you later.
All right. Lisa doesn't know this, but we're not going to wait for the 20th anniversary show.
Here's one other MotorWeek secret. The sound of the car driving off at the end of our show is actually Craig Singhas's Mustang with a hole in its muffler. Of course, Pat Goss, our resident mechanical expert, knew how to fix that problem for Craig. What you may not know is that in addition to his work on MotorWeek, Pat is also an adult education teacher and operator of one of the busiest repair shops around. Pat, how do you do it all?
Well, John, I do stay pretty busy, but I have lots of help, and everything isn't as it appears. John, recently we talked about selecting a stereo system for an automobile. We talked about how to... This is the Goss's Garage that you see every week on television. And this is the Goss's Garage that we see. Actually, today we work in a studio that is really a parking place for one of our production trucks. Sounds good. Okay, let's go back up front and see how Marty's coming with the headset at this point. Marty, how's it going? Our production day usually begins about 8 a.m. The crew prepares the garage for shooting by setting up lighting and props. Now, while this is going on, I'm having my makeup applied.
Alrighty.
All done.
I guess.
Okay. We didn't always have it this nice, though. In the early days of MotorWeek, Goss's Garage used to be my real garage. It was a busy service station near Washington, D.C. Well, that old garage is long gone, and my new shop, Car World, is just too busy to tape in. One of the advantages of owning a busy shop is it's one way to stay current with the automotive service industry. I study a lot of technical information. Much of this I keep on computer. Now that gives me the ability to get through a lot of information very quickly. It also gives me the ability to come up with repair ideas many times before technical service bulletins have been issued. One of the most important challenges in running a service business is having a good staff.
Your front brakes are okay.
In order to be successful in the automotive business, I feel that one of the most important things is to keep your customers' best interests at heart.
It's just from the heat of the brakes. It's not any problem. You don't need front brakes replaced.
You know, this shop is actually an extension of myself. And because of that, I like to see my employees treat customers the way I would expect to be treated myself.